Alright guys, Jameson and Alex here. Today we're going to be covering the Shieldbearer Fighter Subclass from MCDM's Arcadia number 20. If you're new to the channel or the subclass series, what we're going to do is go through all the abilities gained in the subclass, then we're going to rate the roleplay, combat, and synergy based on the abilities gained, how they improve the base class abilities.
That's right.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to be entered in our D&D Beyond Players Bundle giveaway.
Free stuff is wonderful.
All that being said, let's get straight into it.
So before we get into the ability reading, they've got a clarification up front, so they don't have to repeat it over and over again, which is kind of smart. If any feature in this subclass requires a saving throw for your Shieldbearer save DC is 8 plus your proficiency plus your strength modifier, which is great because you're a fighter and you're going to want to have your strength to be high anyway.
Absolutely.
Nothing feels worse than when you're throwing in extra abilities. Normally classes don't have saves. Like, based on your intelligence. Oh, far.
Now I have to put stats in this random thing. I never was gonna...
That's usually my dump stat. So, strength-based. Fantastic. Your first ability is Shield Bash. You can strike your enemies with your shield as easily as any blade. You can use your shield as a simple melee weapon that deals bludgeoning damage equal to 1d8 plus your strength modifier on hit. You can don or doff your shield on your turn without taking an action to do so. Your shield's damage die increases to 1d10 at level 7 and 1d12 at level 15.
I'll take a 1d12 any day.
That's right.
Also at level 3, we have Counter Strike. While a foe is distracted by their own attack, you can deal a mighty blow. When a creature within 5 feet of you attacks you or one of your allies, you can use your reaction to make a melee attack against them with your shield. On a hit, the attack deals 1 extra die of damage, and the target has disadvantage on the next attack roll they make before the end of their next turn. You can use this feature a number of times equal to proficiency bonus, regain all uses on a long rest.
7 will give a shield toss. You learn to hurl your shield with exceptional might and precision. For you, a shield is a weapon with the thrown property with a normal range of 30 feet and a long range of 60. On a hit, it deals the same damage as a melee attack using your Shield Bash feature. If you roll a 20 on this range attack roll, the target is stunned until the end of their next turn. If the attack hits, you can make another attack this turn. You can use that next attack to bounce the shield off the first target and target another foe that you can see within 10 feet of the original target, making another ranged attack for the separate target after the first. And you can bounce the shield more than once if each attack hits and you have additional attacks remaining on the turn. Again, you are a fighter. You're going to have eventually 3 and eventually 4 attacks, so you could technically, pinball the shield onto a total of 4 different targets. If they're all there. If they're all there and they're all within 10 feet apart from each other, that's a very important thing. At the end of the turn, your shield returns to you. You can catch it if you have a free hand. Otherwise, it lands at your feet. The other optional rule they have on here, which I think is fantastic, is the miss the mark thing. If your group enjoys having meaningful effects on critical failures, you can add the following rule to the shield toss feature. If you roll a 1 on a ranged attack roll using a shield, the shield doesn't return to you, but instead lands harmlessly in your target's space. Yeah. The other option I would say is that if you hit, even more fun, real specific, would be to, if you hit the first target and you try to bounce it to somebody else and you roll a 1 on that one, it may bounce towards your ally instead.
Sure.
It's like you're bad at geometry, so you hit the wrong side of the guy, so instead of going dink dink, you go dink.
Yeah. Definitely.
That part's not in there. That's my own brain.
For sure, if you want to mix things up.
Yeah.
Level 10, we have Safeguard. Following the rhythm of combat, you elegantly interweave offense and defense. When you take the dodge action while wielding a shield, you can make a melee attack, no action required, then choose 1 creature within 5 feet of you to protect. Until the start of your next turn, any attack roll made by a creature you can see against the protected creature has disadvantage. The benefit ends early if you're incapacitated or if you're more than 5 feet away from the protected creature. So, dodge and attack.
Yes.
It's fun.
Wonderful. And at 10, we have Improved Counter-Strike. The extra damage from your Counter-Strike feature increases to 2 extra damage die instead of 1. Additionally, when you hit a creature with your Counter-Strike feature, they have disadvantage on all attack rolls, not just 1 until the end of their next turn.
All right. Level 15, we have Aegis of the Brave. Your mighty attacks control the battlefield and smash aside your foe's defenses. Once on each of your turns, when you hit a creature with your shield, you can force them to make a strength saving throw. On a fail, you choose one of the following effects. If the target is large or smaller, they're shoved up to 10 feet away from you. The target drops 1 item of your choice that they're holding, which lands at their feet. Or the next attack against the target before the start of your next turn has advantage. In addition, Thanks to your practice reflexes, ranged weapon attacks against you have disadvantage while you are wielding a shield. So, yeah, almost done. We got lots to say about this one.
And finally, at 18, we have Stalwart Guardian. You've tempered your skills in the heat of battle and emerge victorious. When you use your Safeguard feature to take the dodge action, you can make up to 2 melee attacks as part of that action instead of 1. Moreover, when you hit a creature with your Counter-Strike feature, they must succeed on a Constitution saving throw or be stunned until the start of their next turn. So you have 2 different abilities that can trigger stuns. One's on a crit on a shield throw. This one is on a saving throw. Granted, it is Constitution. We'll get into that. But it's still a chance to stun stuff with your Counter-Strike.
So you're telling me there's a chance.
So I'm telling you there's a chance. Absolutely.
All that being said, those are the abilities. So we'll move right on into the rating portion of the video. First up is the roleplay asterisk, as always.
Wait. Do we need to bother with that on this one?
Probably not.
Okay.
But I will make the side note that we're not talking about flavor. This is mechanical. So, all that being said, as you look through the abilities...
I think it's the first time I've ever done that to you.
I actually was thinking it before I said it. But anyways, if you're looking at the abilities on here, is no innate RP from these abilities other than flavor. So because it's only flavor and there's no actual mechanical benefits to this, really, we just are going to go with a 1 out of 5 in the roleplay and leave all of our commentary into the combat and synergy side of things where there's a lot more focus.
Now that we've decapped Jameson's first segment for the day, let's go ahead and move into where stuff gets fun and interesting. The Shield Bash ability, starting off being able to use your shield as a weapon, is interesting. What does it do for you up front? And the answer is not a ton.
You could just use a regular weapon.
You could just have a shield and have a short sword. Of course, it does eventually scale up to doing enough damage where it's like a 2-handed weapon. So once it scales up, it becomes better, or becomes better than having just a sword and board kind of thing. So just before that, it's like, eh. But the one clarification I did not think of when we first were there is you can don and doff your shield without taking an action to do so. So you could drop the shield, fire the bow. Put the shield back up.
There's shenanigans that can be done.
There's something that can be done there. But the clarification as the simple melee weapon part really doesn't help you to at least get to the D10.
And then to kneecap your point as well is if you did have ranged weapons, you probably would want to go more along the lines of thrown because you're strength based, not dex based.
This is true.
So you could do that, but of course your chance to hit is not going to be as high in damage.
This is true. So yeah, the javelin spear option is going to be better for you.
But it's hard to have 20 javelins on you than it is to have 20 arrows.
Yeah.
So.
Also, yes.
Price to be paid.
There's a change there. Anyway, spent longer than we probably should have, but it happens. The Counter-Strike thing, of course. The chance to get an extra attack in there when somebody gets hit, you can pounce back and get that retaliation damage back is great. There's no, you have limited number of uses on it, obviously proficiency bonus per day, but it's still a free extra attack that you can get in and do that. But the bigger thing for me besides the extra damage is imposing disadvantage on their next attack roll.
Yeah.
That to me is more valuable than you getting in there and getting for an extra, D8 plus 5 is...
Well, until you get to 3d12.
Well, until you get to the... until it scales, from between levels 3 and, 10, before it starts getting the extra stuff.
Yes.
The disadvantage is of more value, to me, personal opinion.
Absolutely. It's meant to be more of a defensive ability than an offensive ability. It just lets you get a little bit extra damage in.
Yeah. And speaking of not needing javelins anymore, you have a shield toss now, so you can throw the thing. It's great because you can hit multiple targets with your multiple attacks and pinball through. The drawback is you can't just throw the shield, catch it back, throw the same target.
Yes.
So you have to...
Also, the fact is, if you make your first attack in a turn, and that attack misses, the shield doesn't come back till the end of your turn.
Right.
So now you don't have your weapon.
You don't.
So maybe you have either backup shields, or I don't know, because it doesn't take an action to down it off. So you could have an extra shield on your back for circumstances. And
maybe you've got just a basic shield, you later in the campaign you've got your really good +2 shield that you're throwing in man, I missed him. Well, basic. Until you can get it for some reason. But it's there. The option, of course, you have a chance to stun. It's a 5% chance only, but again, there's no save for that. It's just if you crit it, it also stuns, so that's fantastic. And like James said, if you miss, it doesn't come back to you in the turn, so something to be aware of, but it's nothing too crazy, because that's really only going to apply as if on your turn you were to create an opportunity attack for somebody else, your AC would be lower, because you don't have the shield in hand.
Yeah, that too.
To keep in mind, but again, that's But you should know that, be aware of that, so shouldn't be a huge ordeal for you there.
Yeah, and timing. And of course, too, if you don't do the optional rule with the natural one, it's not going to come up really as much.
Yeah.
Because it does come back to you.
I think you should. it feels flavorfully accurate if you do it that way. Personal preference again. Safeguard, again, I like it. You could take the dodge action and get a chance to still whop somebody. So again, lets you be more defensive, more survival, but you're not having to fully sacrifice your offense. You still get something out of that at all. And then you can also get to basically the protection fighting style as part of that, all in one little bit. So it lets you kind of cheat and once you knowing the 10, you're like, okay, I don't have to take the protection fighting style at all because I can just do this. Of course, like James has said, the improved counter-strike gives you 2 extra damage die instead of the 1. And now they get disadvantage on all of their attacks. As you get into later levels of CR, higher levels of CRs, later levels of the game, almost everything's going to have multi-attack, so that's going to be good. There's disadvantage on all their attacks and not just the first one. So at 15, we're going to get the additional options here, more wonderfulness for what you get to do. When you hit somebody with the shield, you're forced to make the saving throw. It is a strength saving throw, which isn't going to feel great a lot of times in later games because, again, bigger stuff's going to be just bigger, harder to deal with.
A lot of times.
But if you're smart, you know that you're going to be trying to go after the smaller stuff. If you're fighting like Captain and his underlings, you're going to be focused more on the underlings because more of your stuff is going to be successful.
Right.
So that's going to be great.
Constitution, strength. Yeah.
Or casters are going to usually be smaller on the strength and constitution side of things. You're going to go after them as best you can. You can shove them, which is it's an underrated option because you could shove them if they're next to somebody, a friend of yours. You could shove them away so your person can escape that opportunity attack. Better yet, if you can really shove them back into somebody else's AoE spell, wall of fire, something like that, you can push them back into it. Feels super satisfying because it's like, oh, it's just a shove, but there are times that it becomes very wonderful. You can have them drop an item of choice that they're holding. The biggest thing to me is that for some reason they're holding a shield. That's wonderful because now their AC goes down. They become an easier.
And if an ally's there, so they can pick it up from them or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Or pick it up and you're like,
kick it away, whatever.
Yeah, kick it away. And of course, next attack against the target from the start of their next turn has advantage. So it's kind of a pack tactics-like thing in the fact that you can hit somebody with it, but it also it's the shield. So if you were to throw the shield, it does apply to that thrown shield as well, which is great. And the hidden little extra thing that Jameson made sure I didn't miss when we were reading over this is that, because I did miss it the first time, I was like, okay, bullet point, we're done. It's that ranged weapon attacks have a disadvantage while you're wielding a shield, not just while you're in some other form or limited use per day. It's all ranged weapon attacks. So if you're fighting enemy archers, they just don't have a chance. It's like who gives a rat's behind. Finally, with the stalwart guardian making everything you've got better, the dodge action now lets you attack 2 times instead of once, and then the counter strikes forces a Constitution saving throw or stun. It is a con save, but it's still another chance. 2 different ways you can stun targets, and stunned is one of the more potent CCs that can be had on yourself or an enemy, obviously. So we went with a 4.5.
Yes.
Out of a possible 5. And really the only thing that kept it off of 5 for me was the fact that you are targeting a lot of strength and constitution-based stuffs.
Yeah.
And with the throwing shield, you can't hit multiple targets. You can't hit the same target multiple times. Right. So that's... And I'm not saying it's bad by any means. We really like this. It's just there are some limitations to your ceiling because of those couple things.
So kind of just transitioning to synergy for some thoughts as well for the combat. Some of the stuff that is really nice, I think, just in general. I think this is, I'm gonna say it. This is probably one of, if not the best designed tank subclasses we have reviewed. Because I think the design of it is fantastic.
Yeah, agreed.
And with that, and also the other thing I really appreciate is there's lots of different scaling and increasing to multiple abilities.
Within the subclass, yes.
Right. Your Counter-Strike, for example, yes, it is limited uses per day. And at first, it's not the best thing in the world. It is good, of course, to, defend an ally and get an extra little bit of damage in. But once that damage goes up to 3d12 plus your strength mod...
Yeah, that's a bunch.
As a reaction?
That's a bunch.
And you're giving disadvantage on all attacks? That is awesome. Like, that is fantastic. Yes, it takes to level 10 before you get that. But at the same time, you're going to eventually be able to do that 6 times a day, which is probably going to be plenty. Yeah. Even if you just use it, once or twice a combat, it's still going to feel good. It's going to add up.
That disadvantage on attacks is so huge because as someone who mains a cleric, and I try to preach to people who have joined our campaign late, it's like, well, aren't you a cleric? Can't you just heal us? It's like, I can. But the way 5th edition is constructed, preventing damage is much more efficient than healing it after the fact. So,
yes, for sure.
Things, be able to pose disadvantage, pretty regularly. I mean, there are limitations over time, but it's not like a once per short rest or a once per day kind of thing. It's multiple times, per day. So you've got opportunity there to save your party with some health by just imposing disadvantage a lot. And the 2 different ways to trigger stuns. Another great way to prevent damage because they can't do anything when they're stunned.
And then, the other thing too, safeguard, is to be able to take the dodge. First of all, if you're not a monk, you're probably not using dodge all that often. That's just kind of how it is because monks have easier use for dodge with their key points and stuff. So, with patient defense. Yep. But with, being able to make an attack and using dodge is huge because, again, you're going to be heavy armor. You're going to be wielding a shield.
Yep.
Probably going to take defensive fighting style.
Yep.
You're going to have a 20, 21, 22 AC pretty easily, pretty early.
Yeah, that's the bigger thing. Not just easy, it's pretty early.
Yeah, plus the dodging, you're going to be very difficult to hit. Obviously, there has to be some kind of weakness, which is going to be your saving throws. There's nothing in here to protect you from saving throws. So that will be your one weakness, which there needs to be something.
But you have this thing called Indomitable as a fighter. Lets you roll saving throws.
You do. So you do have that as a class feature.
It's built in.
So there is that. But limited uses, again, with those.
But as far as like anti-physical damage, anti-martial damage...
that is your niche.
This is where you belong, and you excel at it.
So being able to just make some extra, eventually 2 attacks when you take dodge, you're just like everyone else. Instead of taking your 4 attacks.
But you also have dodge as part of it.
Plus, you just always at disadvantage. So, I'll take that. Sure, any day. Plus, don't forget, you have action surge as well on top of that. So you can take all of your attacks.
Yeah,
and then your
you can attack 4 times on your second thing. You attack twice. And
take dodge on your second one.
So you get 6 attacks plus dodge.
Right. So you're still not going to be that worried about it.
You're fine.
Honestly. So, definitely more defensive, tanky kind of fighter. Great synergy growing. And then eventually, every attack, you get the chance for a strength save. Yes, it's a strength save, but it's free, and there's no limited use to that.
Nope.
And again, to disadvantage for all ranged attacks. Oh my gosh, you're just going to be a fantastic tank, especially as Alex said, for physical damage and stuff like that. If you want to have, a more traditional heavy armor, big bulky kind of tank. So that being said, lots of synergy. We went with a 4.5 out of 5 in the synergy as well. Again, the only limitations here. Early on, like Alex said, your first ability, your damage for your shield, it doesn't really do anything early on.
Nope.
You luckily get a second ability at 3, which is the counter strike, but that's going to be super limited early on and not that impactful.
Right.
So it takes a little bit of time to get going. I think that's probably the biggest hindrance.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's a little bit lighter on the front end as opposed to some other fighters that we've talked about on this that exist out there. But you get to that, once you hit 10 on up, you start getting a little silly
rolling.
from there on out.
For sure. But really liked this one. This is very cool. Obviously, Captain America theme. If you want to play Captain America theme.
Definitely inspired by that. The throwing the shield by itself, it makes you think of that immediately.
Yes. So, if you enjoyed the video, guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications so you know when all of our new videos are coming out. Thanks again to our sponsors. Make sure you check out those links down below. Helps us, helps them.
And help us to help you, to help them, and all of the above.
Absolutely. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. So with the Kickstarter, Aethercraft rules for crafting new kinds of items, 100 plus pages for the setting, 200 plus pages of an adventure.
2 hours worth of soundtrack. 4 new subclasses in this book.
Possibly more.
Possibly Kickstarter, more. You know how things work with that. 4 plus. More than 50 magic items.
They have some really cool special editions as well, which just look incredible. So definitely worth checking this out, guys. So, super high quality. Don't let this one slip past you.